Do what? Okay. I don't think so once I start presenting. Okay, if you all are ready, we'll go ahead and get started. I am going to record this session so that we can post it up on our new website that we're getting. So I will start recording now. Okay, so welcome. Hope you all had a great lunch. We are doing quite a few changes within the division, mostly internal processes, and so I'll go over a few of those during this update. The first update is, like Travis alluded to yesterday or mentioned yesterday, with the new administrator, we are restructuring the people in our organization. And so what we've done is we've taken the program quality managers, we've taken student leadership, and we've taken federal programs, and we've all put them under one director and created the program services division within CTE. So Adrian San Miguel, he is the director of program services. He used to be the director of post-secondary, and so now he's assumed the role and has taken over all three of these different areas. It's going to make us more efficient. We're going to be more collaborative internally, and that should in turn be more beneficial to you. The assistant director of program quality is Justin Touchstone. Most of y'all probably know him. He was our senior program manager. He is now the assistant director of program services. And so he's taken on a lot of responsibilities that Donna Orr used to have. So he's over funding. He's over a lot of the IC data stuff. And so he still assumes his job duties as the ETE program manager, and then he's added on a few additional responsibilities. So, and then under him, we have Jenny Bradford. She is our middle school program manager and our senior program manager. She is going to be more hands-on with the data and IC. She is in charge of all of our program alignment responsibilities, going from secondary to post-secondary, and scheduling and coordinating whenever we do our standards reviews. And then as well as all of her middle school programs that she's doing. And then we have Teresa Golis, who is still our FCS program manager. She is over Region 1, so she attends those superintendents meetings. And so a lot of the superintendents from Region 1, they reach out to her to get questions and answers. Y'all still feel free to contact me, but as far as the superintendent level, most of them, because she attends their meetings, they'll be reaching out to her. And then we have Chet Andes. He's our new trade and industry program manager. He came on last October, and he's over Region 2. And then we have Justin Touchstone, who is still over ETE and Region 3. Him and Jenny will share Region 3 because of the size that Region 3 is, which is all of Boise, West Ada, Western Idaho. These regions, by the way, go align with the state board's regions. I don't know how many of y'all are familiar with those regions, but there's 6 of them. So Region 1 is Northern Idaho. Region 2 is the Grangeville, Lewis and Clark College area. Region 3 is Western Idaho. Shauna Williams, who's our business and marketing program manager, she is Region 4, which is the CSI area, southern Idaho. Stephanie Mai is our health sciences and public safety, and she's Region 5, which is southeast Idaho. And then I am over Region 6. So these are the program managers that your superintendents will typically reach out to, just because they are familiar with our faces, because we attend those region superintendent meetings. So, and that is the program quality section under program services. Our duties as program managers have not changed. we will still continue to provide the same services that we have been. And then we have the student leadership side. Lisa Costa is the assistant director for that. She was formerly the SCCLA and DECA CTSO manager. She is now the student leadership assistant director, and so we are currently looking for a new SCCLA and DECA CTSO manager. You have Jesse Kellogg, who's over HOSA and FFA. Brandy Hawkins, who used to be our outreach coordinator. She's done a lot of work with REACH. She's over BPA now. And then our Skills USA and TSA CTSO manager, he left us at the end of June or July? July. And so we're currently looking for a new one of those. If you have any recommendations, send them our way. Assistant Director of Federal Programs is James Barrett Spencer. He's our Perkins coordinator. So he is now overseeing, he's still in charge of Perkins. He oversees adult ed and our GED services that Molly is in charge of. And then in the near future, we are hoping to add on an apprenticeship program manager under the federal programs sector. So that is how the program services will run. Again, like I said, it's going to be a huge benefit to all of you because we are more cohesive, more collaborative, and being under one director, it'll make communication between us and you a lot more efficient and consistent. So, any questions on that? All right. Middle school. Last year, Jenny Bradford and a set of 10 schools throughout the year created middle school standards. This year, they will be piloting those standards. And up on the screen are the 10 middle schools that will be piloting those standards. Some of you are in here. Some of you work closely with these middle schools, and then some are just in your region. She got a good cross-section of large, intermediate, and small district middle schools, and also a mixture of public school or charter schools and your traditional public schools to really work through those standards. And I believe she is going to do a more in-depth PowerPoint presentation or recording that will be posted on our website in the coming weeks. This is something that we're trying to start back up, is our program review process. This is something that has gone away. It was active 5, 6, 7 years ago, kind of went by the wayside, and now we're trying to reactivate that. We're still drafting it. We haven't finalized it. This is one of our projects that we've been working on over the summertime, hoping, of course, COVID travel restrictions dependent. Hopefully we can start doing some of these this year. Right now, the process includes an on-site review. It'll do a self-assessment. So before we come out, we'll send you a document and you will self-assess your program and how you're doing. Send it back to us, and then we'll review it and then come out and do an on-site visit and just ask questions and see where we can better assist you. And that will also include some of the desk review of what you submit to us. So it's very similar to the IQPS process. The document that we will be sending out to you is a little different than IQPS, but then again, very similar. IQPS was one of the documents, one of 3 or 4 that we looked at when trying to come up with this review process, this program review process. In addition to that, we'll have a glossary of terms, a lot for your new teachers. The acronyms that we commonly use within CTE will be on there. And then we are coming up with a overall CTE calendar. It's a one-stop shop calendar for all CTE specific dates, due dates, applications, that sort of thing. That way you're not going to Perkins website and then to TSA or to the SkillStack website and then to the program stuff. It'll all be in one area on our website. The new website is active today. With that new website, there will be a teacher portal that you'll log into, much similar to the IDLA teacher portal that's already activated. And so a lot of that stuff will be hidden behind that. You'll just log in and then you'll have access to this tiles that will have a lot of the stuff on there. and we will do a video recording of how to access the portal, get into the portal, use the portal, and that'll be on our website as well. Another thing that we're looking at is how a better process to create new pathways, new and emerging pathways. The old system, it was basically a handful of people come to the division and say, hey, we need this pathway. There is a post-secondary program that goes with it. Let's create it. And now we have 52 pathways or something like that. So we're trying to come up with a better process on creating pathways, as well as eliminating some of the pathways that we do have. As technology is more incorporated into the pathway, some of the technology that we're using is going away. What does that process look like as far as implementing a new pathway on a statewide level? So it'll be a two-step process. The first step is creating a matrix that we are developing, and it'll be a weighted matrix. And then if you get a score of a 60 or above, then we'll take a heavy look at restarting that. What that matrix involves is obviously industry, job projection, what jobs will be needed in the near future, the sustainability of that. And then once that's completed, then it'll basically be very similar to the new pathway process that we have now. When you want to implement a pathway at your school, you put a new application in by February 15th, and then we go through that process. With that, there's a labor needs document that's in there, an employment trend within the region or state. And so this is still a draft as well. Once we get these drafts and get them more finalized, we'll kick them out to some of the school districts just to use and pilot them to see how efficient they are. Program standards and alignment. This is something that we want to do. Again, COVID-19 travel restrictions dependent. Do we do it online? Do we do it face-to-face? We're going to pick that back up this year. We didn't do very many this past year, but these are reviewing pathways that have been, or standards that have been implemented for the past 5 years. We're going to get industry buy-in, get them to the table again, see what needs to be eliminated from the standards, what needs to be adjusted or improved, and as well as having y'all's input as well. So, and I'll have another slide on which ones that our programs will be looking at this year. PQI and WRI allocations, we still want to give out those grants, those incentive grants and technical assistance grants. They are based a lot on your TSAs and WRAs, which this past year we gave you the option of taking because of COVID and everything that's happening. So having that data has been difficult to assess. So we're trying to come up with other ways that we can evaluate and give those funds out to those school districts. And so technical assistance to come with that. Yes, sir.
So last year, our school missed the pre-TSAs.
Yep.
Because our IC data was not entered right or not entered on time. Is there a way that we can check to make sure that we get pre-TSAs and our stuff is all lined up so we don't run into a problem like that again?
Yeah, you'll just have to contact me. We're going to have the dates on that calendar when pre-tests are open. And so if those tests that not generated, just contact me and I'll see what's going on with that. The WRI is for CTE capstone students who meet the criteria, not just seniors. We're maintaining the PQI technical assistance, and we are looking into doing a startup grant as well with the PQI money. So for those of you who are transitioning from a cluster to a pathway or who want to, that's been a challenge that I've heard is they really want to go to a pathway, but having the proper equipment to be efficient and to give their students the best opportunity to be successful on those tests, getting that equipment is expensive. So we're looking into what can be a startup grant for that when you transition from a cluster to a pathway, or if you just start for those who don't have cluster programs, they just come in with a pathway. So we're looking into what that looks like, what the application for that looks like, to better support you for those of you who transition from a cluster to a pathway. And then just a reminder that skill stack is a component of WRI. So any questions on that?
Can you explain what the WRI is, please?
So the WRI is the very popular grant that came out last year that Steve Rayburn talked about. That it's heavily weighted on how successful your students are on the TSAs. So it's only for pathway programs. And then it also involves how active the teacher is in skill stack. Those are the two main components. And so there is no grant application. It's all data that we can look at on our end. And so whether or not, and so we have that information at hand and we award based on basically those two components. So WRI is strictly a pathway program incentive grant. Did that answer your question, Trent? Okay.
Lucas,
Yes.
and if you don't want to answer this question at this time, that would be fine. But
Yeah, that's why I prefaced.
that's always
we are
always
recording
a good way
this.
to start a question, huh? Has the division ever surveyed parents of kids and said, would you prefer that your student take multiple CTE areas in a cluster concept? Do you prefer that over a pathway concept at the high school level? Has there been anybody that has ever thrown that kind of a?
I don't think that topic has ever been discussed, not to my knowledge. But I know with Clay, he's very open to having any kind of conversation. So if that is something that IATA wants to bring up, or I can bring it up. That's not something that I don't feel comfortable. I mean, I feel comfortable asking that question.
Yeah, I just, in talking with a lot of parents when we recruit, it's like, I just want my kid to explore areas at the high school level and come into that. And to me, I think that's 70 to 80% of parents out there, but I could be wrong in that. But to me, I don't know. It's just a thought that might enter into the direction. But
Yeah, I can ask that question for sure. But no, to my knowledge, to answer your question, no, to my knowledge, that's never been discussed as CTE. Any other questions on this topic? Okay. Skill stack. This is another. Oh. Okay.
This is from JR.
Okay.
So if students score poorly, you would get a grant?
The technical assistance, yes.
Yes, JR. You don't want to know what we call the grant.
And the reason behind that is to try and elevate those programs to get them and slowly, the objective is to slowly phase out the technical assistance grant. And we're hoping that everybody would be on that incentive-based grant, or at least get the amount that we give out on those technical assistance grants down.
I just had one quick question. We've had ICEV here over this conference, and they have a lot of neat certifications that they do. Is there any, do you think there could be any correlation between those and skill stack as you look at them?
We can look into that. I want to say there's been discussions around getting those two, trying to get skill stack badges and certifications more aligned together. Anybody else? All right. Skill stack. This is another one that Heather Luckty will be doing a more in-depth recording on and posting on our website. But Over 11,000 badges have been awarded total throughout the SkillStack lifetime. Just last year, there were over 7,000 badges awarded across the state. All pathway teachers will be added. In the past, it's only been capstone teachers. This year, we're opening it up to all pathway teachers. Prior learning is now a part of Apply Idaho. For those of y'all who know about Apply Idaho, I'm not that familiar with it. And then students can now display their badges on different platforms, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, so that'll help with them getting a job. Virtual assessments are going to be offered this next year. Retakes and pretests are now offered for the WRA. TSA pretests are now offered in January, in addition to the August, September, for those of you who are on trimesters. That'll give y'all a little more flexibility to get those students to take pretests. The WRA is now open to junior capstone students. Some of the feedback that we've gotten is once a junior takes that capstone course, they no longer are in the CTE program. So this is a better way to capture those end of CTE students in the WRA. Perkins, another one. James will do a more in-depth recording on that as well, but just some highlights. Due to COVID, the submission date has been extended to September 30th. There will be a substantial approval once we receive the district CLNA, and then final approval will be granted once all the materials have been received. So rural districts will receive a minimum of $7,500, and then the remote districts will receive $15,000. And then, so down at the bottom, 96 districts are considered rural, while 12 of those are remote. So 12 school districts will be getting a minimum of $15,000 for Perkins. And there's a definition for remote, what's considered remote. It's where they're 25 miles or greater from another school district. So, any questions on Perkins? Thank goodness. Okay, something new that got passed this past legislative session is Senate Bill 1329. What that does is for any career or industry endorsed teacher, their years of experience in industry will count towards the career ladder. That is only for and I forget the term that Christy used, but it's basically for your first year to third year teachers before you, I think she said, then you transition over to the professional ladder or something like that. I forget. So if you're within your first 3 years of teaching and you're an industry teacher, industry endorsed teacher, your years of experience in industry will count towards the career ladder. So, and then any more than that, if you have any questions on that, you can direct them to Christy or Susan, and I can get you their contact information if you would like to email them or call them. Funding, added costs, we're going to move back to the 70-30 split. This past year, we tried doing the 100% up front, and then lo and behold, we had to pull some of that money back. So just to eliminate that process, we're going back to the 70% in the fall and then 30% in the spring. And obviously, it'll be based on last year's FTE. So that's why the IC data is very important. I know that y'all don't enter in any of that stuff, but having communication with your IC coordinator or whoever that is at your school district is very important because it does affect your funding. Yes, sir. No, the 5% is off the top. So, and then, after that 5%, then it'll affect it. Yes, yes. And so one thing that we tried last year, and we think it was pretty successful, and we're going to do it again this year, is end of August, first part of September, we sent out a projected funding letter to your district. And so your district superintendent or your business manager had the opportunity to get back to us and say, yes, that is correct, or no, that's not correct. Let's work this thing out. And so that eliminated I'm not going to say all issues, but a lot of the issues with funding was having that first letter going out saying this is what we have based on last year's IC stuff. This is what you could get. What is it? Is that the same thing that you have? So that's something else that we're going to do this year again, because we think that it was very successful last year in eliminating a lot of our problems as far as the communication and funding issues that we had. Throughout the year, we're going to be offering some technical assistance Zoom meetings, very similar to what I did this past spring. And so if you have any ideas or suggestions that you want to talk about on those Zoom meetings, send them to me, and I'll create an agenda, and whoever can hop onto those meetings can hop on, and we can discuss some things. And then, like I said earlier, there will be additional information sessions posted on our website about SkillStack, Perkins, and then our CTSO updates. Any questions on funding? Oh, I skipped over the gear funding. So hopefully most of y'all are aware of the gear funding. It's through the CARES Act. It's the Governor Emergency, I forget the full acronym, but the governor has given us money specifically to use on CTE programs. We sent out a survey a few weeks ago, maybe a month or two ago, trying to see what y'all wanted us to purchase with that money. I think we got the most responses from you all as far as program areas, and a lot of y'all said ICEV. We put all of the recommendations into a spreadsheet, and we are currently going through that, weighing and trying to cover the most programs with that money. So we got it narrowed down to 10 different resources that the state will be purchasing. Some of those we can't afford all 10, unfortunately, but we will be purchasing some things that will roll out to you for you to use with those districts that are strictly online, hybrids, and in person. Program quality services, or the program managers got some money, and then our student leadership also received some money. So y'all will be receiving some of those resources here, hopefully pretty soon. Now more into the programmatic stuff. Standards review, looking into the late fall, November-ish.
Lucas, can I ask a question before you move on? I don't want to get behind. Nate Lowe.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I'm curious, with the governor's monies, didn't they also allocate like $1 billion for PPE and things like that? Will any of that trickle into CTE?
That is not, I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure on that.
Okay. Just curious. Thank you.
I think that's more at a district level. So the standards review, the standards that we need to look at and revise, they've been active for at least 5 years, are agribusiness, animal science, ornamental horticulture, and ag welding. So I will be reaching out to you all who teach within those pathways or teach those courses. I want to get in contact with your tax and have them on in the review process, as well as you all. So what that process will look like, we're not 100% sure yet. We're going to try and do stuff through Zoom, but I think we can all agree that in-person sessions are a lot more effective. So we'll just have to navigate that depending on what this virus does and what the restrictions the state has and what your districts have. So any questions on that? Okay. IQPS, there were 38 applications this year, 7 new applicants who have never before applied. So that is good to see. I sent out an email on July 13th with the state averages of what you all submitted, or you and your administrators submitted. So that just kind of gives you an idea of what you all are doing across the state. So now what I'm going to do once this conference is over is start reviewing the applications, going through, making notes, And then I would like to start doing site visits at the end of this month, if possible. I will be contacting those of you who applied to see what if your district will allow me in to do those site visits, and that's where I will ask a lot of my questions, any questions that I have based on your applications, and then possibly adjusting your score depending on what me and you agree upon, or me and your administrator, if I have questions about those scores. So hopefully I can start traveling at the end of this month. Not guaranteed, but that's what I would like to do. So please go ahead, for those the 38 of you who applied, go ahead and start talking to your administrators and see what that looks like, so that I can get a feel for how I need to navigate these on-site visits. I would appreciate that. And then as we transition into the CTSO update, American degrees. I submitted 49 to National FFA this year. We're still waiting to see how many of those were approved, not approved. Starting in 2021, like Ben had mentioned yesterday in his update, if you want to edit any of your applications or your student applications, I have to submit them to National FFA by March 1st, which means you will have to submit them to me before then, and I need to come up with a reasonable date for that to happen, because I'm not going to wait around my computer till midnight on March 1st for y'all to send in those applications. So in the past, what has happened is those applications were due to National FFA by me by June 15th at midnight or 11:59. And then once they reviewed them, if there were any issues, then they would kick them back to me to kick back to you to do edits. And you had a week to 10 days, not a whole lot of time with you trying to get a hold of your applicant during the summertime. With this new rule, this new policy here, that goes out the window. If I submit an application after March 1st, in between March 1st and June 15th, if they stick with that June 15th deadline, there will not be an option for an edit. So there's that. So for those of y'all who are having applicants, yes, Jason.
I was helping some college students do theirs this year, but hadn't done them in a long time. So what are the most common reasons for kickback? If you don't mind sharing just like your top 5 or something.
Not ag related, and just a number of hours basically are the ones that I see. As far as the edits that I kick back before I submit it to National FFA, just wording and sentences and descriptions. That was my biggest issue, is in the descriptions is it would say 1 head for county fair. Well, that's not a very good description. These SAEs, what National FFA, and I sent out what the criteria that National FFA is looking for community service and for the application. They want to see growth within the project from year to year. So I would kick them back saying you need to edit it. You know, what did the student learn? What did the student do differently from the prior year? Those are the big kickbacks that I do personally to try and improve the application. For me, this is a prestigious award, and so the application needs to look its best. A description of 1 head for county fair doesn't say anything as far as learning. So, so that's what I see. And spelling mistakes. Oh man, there was one, I can't remember now. There was one, the wording, like it's a very 4-letter word and they misspelled it 5 different times within the application. So, you know, I hope that y'all are reviewing them. Get with your English teachers, have the students collaborate with the English teachers to just work on vocabulary and spelling, punctuation, that sort of thing. So, because it looks very bad coming from Idaho going to National FFA and a kid misspells a 4-letter word 5 times. So, last week, me and Clara Lee were going through the Constitution, and I realized that I have the availability to come up with a committee to look over these American degrees. Well, that alleviates 2 weeks out of my time to look over these, because for the teachers, and like I was explaining yesterday in the committee, in the SAE committee, those teachers that submit 6 applicants every year, those aren't hard to review because we've already had that discussion last year. What needs to change, what an application should look like. But those of you who submit one once every 5 years, it takes me anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour and a half to do the initial review of it and writing down everything that needs to be fixed. And that takes a lot of time. So this next year, I'm going to get a committee together. We're going to sit down, calibrate each other so that we're all on the same page and do a review process for these American degrees. So, yes, Jasa.
Could I suggest a webinar for the actual students and teachers if they wanted to call in, but like hey, you're getting ready to submit your American degree like several months in advance of these are the things, these are the deadlines that I could announce to like the kids at CSI, hey, they're doing this webinar. If you're planning on submitting this year, you need to log in.
Yeah, that's doable. I've actually been talking with Brett Evans, who is he oversees the American degrees at National FFA, and I have asked him if he would be willing to come out next year for our IATA conference and do a workshop over, I think, proficiencies. He's over proficiencies in American degrees, and do a workshop on that, on what National FFA is looking at. But he said that he's more than willing to do a Zoom meeting. So if I can't do it, or I'll try and get him, but if he can't do it, then I can do it. And that's something that's very doable.
I think inviting the students themselves would be.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great idea. So, any questions on that? Well, that was easy enough. That's the end of mine. So.
Thank you, Lucas.